Hey, welcome to Stone Cold Stros, episode 20 of season 2. I'm Brandon Strange. I'm joined by Charlie Palillo and Josh Jordan. Read Charlie's column weekly on sportsmap.com and follow him on X at Palillo. Read Josh's work daily on sportsmap.com and follow him on X at JoshJordan975. Click like on the video, please. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Click that bell for notifications so you know when we have new content on the channel. Gents, what a difference a week makes. Astros hang 27 on the Orioles over 3 games, over that 3-game sweep. They have clawed their way to back within 2 games of 500. They were 10 games back of Seattle just last week. Now 6 games back and 4 games out of the wild card as we record this. Unfortunately, the injury bug continues to bite them, with Jake Bloss exiting his debut in the 3rd inning with shoulder discomfort, diagnosed with shoulder inflammation, supposedly no structural damage, so we'll see. Backup catcher Victor Caratini probably down for a month following that hip flexor injury. Tucker still has yet to resume baseball activities. JV has yet to resume baseball activities, which means he probably won't be ready for when his IL stint expires. What does it say about this team, Charlie, that even in spite of all those injuries, you're down JV and Tucker, and they're still able to close the gap and win a big series?
It says the baseball season is a long and winding road. It's amusing and productive that the Astros, as they started this soft schedule stretch, at the outset of which 9 series, 8 of them against teams 500 or worse, and by far the best series of baseball they played all year was against the one winning team, as they put it to the Orioles. I know it got a little closer than comfort for some Friday night, but that was a blowout that just tightened up late. And then back-to-back strong starting pitching from Fromber and Blanco against what has been clearly the best offense in the American League so far this season. So, that was the best of the Houston Astros, how they envision themselves, how the fans envision them. But it doesn't mean by sweeping the Orioles, the Astros are back and they're the best team in the league, any more than when they were falling apart in September and getting swept at home by the awful Kansas City Royals that, they've collapsed, they suck, they're not going to make the playoffs. Right? It was a wondrous 3 games out of 162. If anyone still needed a reminder that, no, they're not dead yet. They had been dead. They are not dead. And now it's extremely implausible that to be deadened enough in the wild card race by the trade deadline that the Astros are doing anything but looking to add as opposed to subtract and sell.
Yeah, this is what Dana Brown wanted, right? It's like, hey, we just need to get on a roll here, get going, start winning some ball games, get close, get back to 500, and then, we'll see what happens when the All-Star break rolls around. So they're on that path, but this is what we've seen from the Astros this year, right? Is can they keep this going, or are they going to backslide and lose 3 or 4 games to kind of wash away all this positive momentum? So that's what I'll be looking for here. Can they keep it consistent? Have they turned a corner, or is just a blip in the season where they got hot and played well? But they've only lost 2 games since Abreu left the club, so I think there's something to it. Just having more athleticism. Chandler Rome talked about it in his column this week. Just with Dubon in the lineup and Loperfido in the lineup, they're faster. They're a more athletic ball club, and the amount they're playing Dubon, he started 14 straight games now. So look, if he's playing well, get him in the lineup. They're doing that. Espada is playing the guys that are hot. Chaz starts hitting some home runs. He starts seeing more playing time. Hopefully he can get it going. I don't think he had a hit in the finale over the weekend, but nice to see him playing better. And Loperfido, it's just a shot of juice with him in the lineup, man. He makes that huge catch. I think that kind of swung the game in the series to where this year with the Astros, it's just felt like everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. But with Loperfido making that big play, they get out of the inning. That sets up a huge series. I think Loperfido is just kind of that shot in the arm they need, just some youth on this ball club, and you can see it. And I think Espada is starting to get a feel for this ball club. And Jeremy Pena talked about how he really needed that day off the other day, and it made a big difference for him. And then you see Pena, he's not chasing sliders 3 feet off the plate in the dirt seemingly every at bat. He had a nice weekend. So I think Espada, he's starting to figure this team out. I'm liking what I'm seeing.
Well, the manager certainly looks smarter when guys start playing better. It's kind of a two-edged sword in that, all right, the Astros, they did have a 6-game winning streak earlier this season, but they just mauled the Orioles to get within 11.5 of Baltimore in the wild card race. That's where the Orioles were. But you feel like, all right, the gears are meshing. The pistons are firing. Oh, an off day Monday and another off day Thursday. Don't disrupt the flow. But overall, with the patchwork starting rotation at the back end, I think it's a good thing, right? Bloss was called up in an emergency, and then he goes down. No indication that Verlander is anywhere close. Arrighetti remains very spotty. So the core of the rotation at this point is Blanco, Framber, who, yeah, he has his hiccups, but on balance, he's been excellent over his last 8-9 starts. And then you throw in Hunter Brown with the four-seam fastball largely ditched and pitching down in the zone and improving his command. It's just been a revelatory leap from him. So they're well positioned. A week ago, I set the reasonable target of 15-9, not some insane run to be at 500 at the All-Star break. Well, they've started that 24-game stretch 5-1. So now it would take 10-8 the rest of the way to get to the break at 500. So time to upwardly tick up the goals to be over 500 at the break. Any single game, I mean, it's possible the Rockies could come in here and beat the Astros too, but the Rockies are an atrocity on the road. So you're thinking, all right, 500, and then you go play the Mets, maybe take 2 out of 3 there, and you're a game over 500 for the first time the whole season. Barely into the second half of the season, right? The Astros reached the halfway point of the 162-game schedule Friday night against the Mets.
JP France, speaking of injuries, had another setback, so it looks less and less likely like he'll play a meaningful role on this team. But Charlie, you mentioned, the middle of the rotation, Blanco and Brown really picking things up for Houston, and JV has just been in that fight with Father Time this season. You mentioned Spencer Arrighetti's just been okay as a back end of the rotation guy. They are relying on a lot of prospects right now to fill in gaps in this pitching staff. What are your concern levels for this pitching staff, and specifically for the starting rotation?
Verlander remains the big question. When is he going to get back? Is he going to stay healthy? As an aside, each start he misses decreases the likelihood of Verlander getting to 140 innings. Is it a good thing or a bad thing if the Astros are off the hook of that $17.5 million next year? I know how Steve Cohen of the Mets feels because he's on the hook for the other 17.5 should it vest. But the Astros need one more starting pitcher to give you a foursome that you're thinking, okay, heck, I mean, come October, you need 4 starters if you're back in the postseason yet again. Blanco just continues to be outstanding. He'll have 2 starts left. I guess if he was to get lit up, he could warp his stats a little bit. But out pitching, Corbin Burns, the Orioles ace on Saturday, should pretty much nail down an all-star spot for Ronel Blanco. I mean, imagine suggesting the possibility in March. I mean, even after the no-hitter, right? That's an amazing one-off. But Blanco, with just a couple of minor burps along the way, has been stellar. I don't think the foreign substance suspension will be held against him for all-star voting. It's not like it was a PED thing. There could be a possible numbers game. They take 8 or 9 starters, and the White Sox have to have an all-star. It'll be a starting pitcher. The Angels have to have an all-star. It's probably Tyler Anderson, a starting pitcher. But on the merits, Ronel Blanco now is absolutely an all-star. And as talked about when he had the suspension, in the immediacy of it, oh no, Ronel Blanco suspended. Yeah, but it saved a start of wear and tear and pushed back a start after that. Right? He's on pace for in range of 180 innings, which would blow away his prior high as a professional. Now, sometimes a guy just throws free and easily. It doesn't look like maximum exertion, but it's still a workload. But you watch Blanco and you're not thinking, is he liable to hit a wall? But JP France did. Framber Valdez, the second half of last season, was it the accrual of 400 innings over 2 years of baseball, or did he just merely lose it mentally and then physically in conjunction with that? But Ronel Blanco is essential, especially if Verlander's not going to be a prominent start of the rotation. Framber is a durable innings eater. Hunter Brown also, after blowing past his prior pro career high last season, well, he's going to do it again this season if he's going to remain a mainstay in the rotation. So they have multiple questions, but pretty much what rotations don't. I mean, the Orioles have lost 3 starters to Tommy John surgery in the last month, including their best or second best starter, Kyle Bradish, top 5 Cy Young guy last year. mean, the Rangers just got back Max Scherzer for 5 magnificent innings on Sunday. Okay, that's one start. Is Mad Max going to hold up? Is DeGrom ever going to matter? The Rangers have some bubblegum and baling wire otherwise holding together their rotation. The Seattle Mariners, with the youngest group of starters, the best group of starters, showing no real slowing down at this point. Well, will they all hold up, as several of their guys are on pace for career highs in innings? But the Astros, 6 games back, are obviously not in a favorable position within the division, but they're within striking distance, especially with 6 head-to-head still to come with Seattle. 4 back of now the Red Sox, who through the weekend nosed ahead of Minnesota, or nosed ahead of Kansas City in the number 3 wildcard position. The Astros have 6 games still with the Red Sox. And as you're battling the 2-front war, right now they are down deep to Seattle in the season series. They got swept in Kansas City. They lost 2 out of 3 to Minnesota. So the Astros have some menses to fend if it's in late September when we're thinking, where are they in terms of tiebreakers in a wild card race or a division race?
Yeah, for me, it's all about pitching. I mean, we don't know when Verlander's going to be back. They really only have 4 guys that they feel confident with right now. At some point, you're not going to have these off days, and you're going to need more starting pitching. They mentioned maybe Sean Dubin. They try and stretch him out a little bit. Maybe he can make a spot start for them, around 50, 60 pitches. That possibly is an option. I will say Dubin's been better than I anticipated this year. He's had some good moments for the team. So they just don't have anybody else. If I'm Dana Brown, I got to go find me a starting pitcher. I'm not a top of the rotation guy, but just somebody that can give me some innings here. Because to Charlie's point, when Verlander comes back, is he going to stay healthy? And then you have all these other X factors with the rest of the rotation. And we've seen what type of season this has been for the Astros. People are going down left and right, especially the starting pitchers. So they got to get some insurance here. And, I know they have some games coming up here. They can really start making some hay, but even the Mets, you think that's easy. They're like 8-2 in their last 10 games. So they've been playing better baseball. So for me, it's all about the starting pitching because it looks like the bats have come alive.
And I think they hope to slow play it, among other factors. Well, if you go add a somewhat proven major league 5th starter type, he makes salary, right? And they're still trying to stay below that second cap threshold if they can. And when does it get real with Luis Garcia, right? Their internal evaluation of when he's truly going to be ready to pitch on a big league mound matters. Hopefully they're either more honest with themselves or just better than they are with their public proclamations of, well, this is minor. This will be a couple of days. Kyle Tucker, anywhere close? And Christian Javier, et cetera, et cetera. But, if they're genuinely confident, right, performance aside, but that Garcia by August 1st is going to be a guy in the mix, that would probably inhibit them from saying, okay, let's go on and give up a prospect or two to add a major league starter. McCullers, to me, you have to completely treat as found money. If he's on a major league mound at all this year in pitching, wow, good for him. And hopefully he'd pitch well enough that good for the Astros. But I think Garcia is the X factor in their rotation thinking, right? Eric Lauer basically has been terrible since they signed him off the street after the Pirates released him. I think he's had one good outing of about 4 since joining Sugarland. They rapid fired Bloss to the major leagues. AJ Bluebaugh is another guy in the minors that at pinch they could try. I mean, that's how Arrighetti got here earlier this season. But in an Astros-centric world, of course, boy, a lot of question marks. Cross those fingers really hard. But you look around. I mean, Cleveland starts the week with the best record now in the American League. Right? They lost Shane Bieber for the season very early. Their best alleged starting young pitcher, Tristan McKenzie, has been injured and not very good. If you're good enough, you'll figure it out. You'll get enough performances to get it done.
You mentioned, Kyle Tucker's injury. That injury has allowed Joe Espada to play Joey Loperfido more since he's been called up. And Dana Brown has said that it's important that Loperfido get regular at-bats. But with Myers' production this season and Chaz is back coming alive, the Astros now have a true glut in the outfield, seemingly. When Tucker returns, what do they do with Loperfido?
I'm still on team first base for Joey, where you feel like you'd be wasting a little bit of his athleticism because he looked very good in the outfield at a couple different spots already. But you know what? I know there's the thinking, well, first base, you could put any sloth there. I mean, the Astros have at times over the years, but a good athletic first baseman who's maybe a little quicker to a ball in the hole or on the line, or is more flexible to save an error on a throw from an infielder. Or if it's part of your best alignment offensively and defensively. So I still don't understand, unless they're just messing with us, why Loperfido did not get more run in the minor leagues at first base. Jordan likes to play the outfield. You're never going to play full time, but I don't think they're going to say, Jordan, you're Big Papi. You're going to DH. You're only going to DH, and you're going to love it. Go kill it, big guy. But when Jordan is the DH, your defense is better. If you have an outfield of Loperfido, Myers, Tucker, or if McCormick is in for one of those guys. So as long as you're getting enough production, and anytime a guy goes 0 for 4, a spot will hear, well, why'd you play him as opposed to this guy? But Tucker's the only one, leaving Jordan aside, who absolutely is in the lineup virtually every day when he's healthy. So you have 3 guys for those other 2 spots. You mix and match, high ball pitcher, breaking ball pitcher. They'll do all their intel on that. Chas McCormick certainly should be in there against left-handed starters. But I don't want to pigeonhole Loperfido this early as just a platoon guy. But I would think against lefties, you have McCormick and Myers are probably both going to get playing time over Loperfido, which is where, to me, okay, I'd play Joey a little bit at first base against lefties if Dubon's not there on a given day because he's playing somewhere else. But I think Josh used the word versatility or flexibility or both. They certainly have more of that post you-know-who.
Yeah, they're more athletic too. They're younger. That was the thing. This was getting to be a very old baseball team, but you put Loperfido in there, and even though Dubon's no spring chicken, he's not 37 years old. So yeah, I think Loperfido is definitely going to hit against righties. Chaz against lefties makes a lot of sense, and we'll see when Tucker returns what they decide to do ultimately. But yeah, you got to at least let Loperfido show you that he can't hit lefties. I think you got to play him a little bit. What if he is the next thing on this team, the next young guy to come up and be a really quality player? We got to find that out. So let's get him out there to see what happens. This is a great time to do it while Tucker's out. Just start him every day.
It's interesting with Loperfido that as he was just mashing home run after home run early this season, that was the attention grabber. 49 at-bats for the Astros. He's hit 1 homer. And he struck out 20 times, so the whiff factor is as advertised, and that'll be the hurdle for him going forward. But just the 1 home run, but he's hitting 347. So he has warranted more playing time, and he adds a dimension more than just what he does in the batter's box. You just hope we're not first week of October thinking that, like last year, had the Astros just missed the playoffs, and they came this close to just missing the playoffs, that playing Maldonado's negative war over Yiner for 30, 40 games worth, that could have been the difference. That if this year they were a month slow, 3 months slow, but a month pragmatically slow on saying, all right, Jose Abreu, it's old Yeller for your career, buddy. They just missed the playoffs because you gave whatever the final number of starts were to a woeful negative war player as opposed to, well, basically anyone else, much less a Loperfido Dubon combo, wherever you're spotting them on the field. That would be one that within the organization, much less Astros fans, there'd have to be a lot of rueful head shaking.
Charlie, you mentioned you-know-who. I don't want to beat a dead horse or a dead dog, as your old Yeller moniker would indicate, but it's probably worth an epilogue conversation about Jose Abreu. We said the team wasn't, well, I specifically said the team wasn't a Jose Abreu away from being better substantially, but the numbers are telling. Overall, 21-12 without Jose Abreu on the roster, 17-28 on the roster. Jose Abreu was sent down on May 1st and returned May 27th. And that time they went 14-10 with a 6-game winning streak over 24 games. And then since release, they've won 8. They went 8 games. No, when he returned, they went 8-9 over 17 games. And then since his release, they have won 6 of 9, including a 5-game streak. So I don't want to put their woes all on one person, but Charlie, is this as simple as just addition by subtraction?
It absolutely is that. I mean, you took out basically the worst regular in Major League Baseball. You were upgrading by anything short of raffling off first base to a fan or inviting one of us to play on a rotating basis over the course of a week. I mean, that's about how bad Abreu was. So putting anyone else in there, right? Even bad John Singleton, who's seeing his playing time erode, another light bulb flashing, sitting against back-to-back righties. Corbin Burns has reverse splits. Suarez, the Sunday guy, doesn't. But John Singleton was an upgrade over Abreu, and he had the little pocket where he produced. Well, he now has one home run and about 100 at bats, and he's John Singleton. He's a 210 hitter. But that was still better than Abreu.
Yep.
But a lot more to it, of course, than that. The bullpen disaster, the back three in April, Alex Bregman, a two-month coma, whereas now Alex Bregman's looking like 2019 Alex Bregman over the last near month of baseball now. Altuve in May had the worst offensive month in his career since 2013. So it was not just about Abreu, but if you had a number of zits to clear up on your face to look pretty again, Abreu was the first one that needed to. I don't want to give a free plug. Clear seal it, whatever you do. It needed to go. It was a boil that needed to be lanced. How's that?
There you go.
It was. How many at bats did we see where it seemed like Abreu came up at the absolute worst time, where the offense was starting to get cooking, and it would find him, and Abreu would come up, and typically it'd be take 2 pitches for strikes, call timeout, and then strike out on the third pitch. I mean, how many times did we see that happen? And his defense wasn't very good either. We saw that immediately when he returned from the minor leagues. We saw some poor defense at first base, and he's not fast. Even if he gets on base, he may not even score from second on a decent hit. He's an older 250-pound man. So they just got so much more speed and athleticism. And I think that's a big difference right there. And they don't have to talk about him anymore. They don't have to answer questions or feel bad for him anymore. It's gone. It's out of sight. It's out of mind. I think that was a huge part of this. He was just weighing them down. And you've seen they've played much better since he left. And you're given a chance to play some young guys. That's why I'm with Charlie on this. Try Loperfido at first base. If it doesn't look good, then don't play him there anymore. But I say give it a shot. But no, I think moving on from Abreu was necessary, and it looks like it was the right move, guys. And I just think he's done. I don't think any team's going to take a shot on him. I mean, his numbers, we talk about a fan having as good a chance of getting a hit as him. His splits, his numbers are basically what pitchers were back when pitchers hit in baseball in the National League. Like, he gave you about as good a chance as a pitcher coming up there and getting you a hit. I'm not kidding. If I had a game on the line, I would have rather had Zach Greinke come and hit for me than Jose Abreu. I mean, just think about what we're saying there.
And Alex Bregman has been a revelation. And outside of first base, the Astros have questions on both corners long-term. We're going to talk about that in part 2, because that's it for this part 1 of Stone Cold Stros. To listen to the full show, it's up right now at your favorite podcast app. And to watch the rest of the conversation on YouTube, just check back later on this channel. And we'll be releasing that part shortly. And as always, go Stros.